when I first graduated in 1980, which is quite a long time ago, it was, I think, 0.5% of senior executives in financial services were women. And at the time I thought, oh, well, that'll be easy to fix, maybe 10 years, 15 years, we'll be at 50%. We're at 17% today, and I don't know whether to cry or do the happy dance. I mean, it's great progress, but it really isn't enough relative to the intellectual capital in the world, by way of example, that are women. My own personal background in terms of diversity, I grew up in a housing project, and there were people from Cuba, there were people from Tanzania, there were people from Italy, people from Greece, and all over the place. You could imagine this melting pot of immigrants. And I feel real gratitude and feel fortunate to have been around that much diversity, but at the time didn't realize that it was a fortuitous time in my life. And so when I got a little older and could afford to go to Greece and Italy and so on and so forth, I really realized how fortunate I was to experience those cultures for years in terms of cooking, in terms of dance, in terms of music, in terms of weddings, in terms of funerals. And so when I started working, I didn't understand, quite candidly initially, that diversity was an issue or that inclusion was an issue. And as I became more senior, I realized it wasn't. I thought, my God, what a terrible way to lose so much richness in thinking and so on and so forth. Honestly, back in the late 80s, early 90s, there were thoughts about, can you make the case for diversity? And fortunately today, we're past that. Now I want someone to make the case for homogeneity, but that would be a laughing matter, wouldn't it? So the reason I'm so focused on diversity is, first and foremost, I think it's the right thing that people get equal opportunities based upon capability, not upon the color of their skin or their gender or what religion they practice or anything else. So that's first and foremost. And then secondly, I think as a business matter, it's been proven, if you look at firms like BCG or McKinsey, Accenture, they've done all these studies that now demonstrate that diverse populations produce much more innovation, much more change, and in the technological age that we live in and the rate of change, how important is that? And from my own perspective, I attribute a lot of my own personal success to ensuring that I'm around people that think differently from me. It engages me in a way that I otherwise wouldn't think about. And so I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's terrific for business. And honestly, I can't imagine any other way of doing it. So then I step back and say, well, my God, Eileen, if that's true, why are these statistics what they are? And it's disappointing. I'm disappointed in where we are at Bridgewater. I'm disappointed where we are in financial services. I'm disappointed in where we are, period, full stop. And so we have to continue to work on ways to get people to open their minds, see the value of diversity. And I think we're getting there. And I'm looking forward to the next generation to taking the baton and moving it even a step further and quicker. I do think that dealing with this issue, that it requires senior people at the top to really make this a priority. So at Bridgewater, diversity is a very big priority for David and I. When I was at Morgan Stanley, it was a huge objective for John Mack, myself. So I've been fortunate to work with people who this is a real priority for. And I think if you don't make it a priority, it won't get the kind of action and traction it needs. If you pay someone basically based upon, their profit and loss, they figure out a way to get through obstacles. They figure out a way to get what seems like the impossible done. I believe it's really important to make people accountable and responsible for the long-term strategic initiative of diversity, and to start remunerate them and put incentives in place for people to do basically the right thing. So when people say, well, I don't want to, have lower standards or dilute, our way of being, it's, well, neither do I. You can do both. And so if you don't have leadership pushing on that, I don't think it'll happen. Much the same way if you don't have leadership pushing on profit margins, if you don't have leadership pushing on what are our new product innovations, what are the new things, what's the visualization for our future in terms of how are we going to work in this new global economy. You can go through time and say, well, yeah, that really required leadership to get behind it, not just the strategy. A lot of people think, oh, the leader does the strategy and everybody else does the doing. The leaders need to be there through innovative change, in my opinion, to basically work through what are challenges and difficulties for people, to make them more quickly and get through them, because a lot of times differences of opinion can become personal when leaders don't get involved. But the case for diversity has clearly been made. And leaders, if they want to have the best talent in the globe, are going to have to deal with that issue much the same way they deal with any other issue that's critically important to their strategic agenda and future.